Leaving a baby near a huge creature like a horse is not something many mothers would do for fear of getting hurt. But when one mother left her daughter alone in the barn, she never imagined the horse would do this. It all started as a normal day for Stacey Storer, a woman living in Nottingham, UK. The young woman had recently taken maternity leave from her job as a caregiver because she had given birth to a beautiful baby girl whom she and her husband had decided to name Ruby. The baby had grown quickly, and before Stacey knew it, her daughter was already 8 months old. The new mother knew her maternity leave would soon be over, so she wanted to spend as much time as possible with her daughter and introduce the baby to one of the things she had loved her whole life: horses. When Stacey was a little girl, her family owned 3 horses, which the little girl grew up with. Because of this, Stacey fell in love with the beautiful creatures. As she grew older, she could be found daily in the stables with the horses or riding one of them in the fields. Besides doing all the fun things with the animals, like riding them and braiding their manes and tails, Stacey also did all the hard work involved in caring for them. She cleaned all the stalls, fed them, and groomed them. For Stacey, they were an incredibly important part of her life. Unfortunately, as the young girl got older, she ended up moving away from her home and horses to get a home of her own. Unfortunately, the place where her new home was located didn't have any space to keep her own horses. On top of that, the cost of renting a field and barn was simply too high for Stacey to consider, which meant she could never get a horse again. Although the young woman couldn't have her own horses, that didn't stop her from wanting to introduce her daughter to one of the most important aspects of her life. Luckily, Stacey had a friend who owned her own stables. With this in mind, the young mom asked her friend if she could introduce her baby to horses to see if she got along with the animals. Stacey's friend happily agreed, as it also meant she could spend time with her friend and her baby. With the plan all sorted out, Stacey decided it would be better to go see the horses sooner rather than later, as she would soon be going back to work and wouldn't have as much time to take Ruby to the stables. The next morning, Stacey woke up as usual, and Ruby was crying for her morning feed. After finishing breakfast, the woman quickly got ready along with her daughter to head to her friend's stable. Stacey was anxious to see how her daughter would react to the animals there. The little family already had a kitten that Ruby seemed to love, so the young mother hoped her daughter would also get along with the horses. Unfortunately, just as Stacey was getting ready to go to her friend's barn, Ruby decided to have a little tantrum. The little girl, like many young babies, had become upset and simply couldn't calm down. Hoping that a car ride might calm her down or even make her sleep a little, Stacey strapped her baby into the car carrier and started driving to the stables. The woman thought that even if Ruby was asleep all the time in the stables and couldn't see the horses, it would be okay since she herself could still spend time with the animals she loved so much. Unfortunately, Stacey's plan didn't work. Ruby cried the entire time she was in the car. Every once in a while, she seemed to start to calm down, but then she would start crying once again. Finally, Stacey arrived at her friend's stable. She was quite nervous as she didn't know what to do to get her daughter to calm down. She had checked Ruby's diaper to see if she needed a change, but it was clean. She also tried to feed her again, but she simply spit out the milk she offered. Stacey really didn't know how to calm her baby. The young mother pulled Ruby out of the car while she was still in her seat and headed to her friend's barn. Upon seeing her friend, Stacey greeted her cheerfully. However, Ruby was still not happy. The baby continued to cry, even when both her mom and friend paid attention to her and tried to soothe her discomfort. Both women were very confused as to what was wrong with her, as she just wouldn't stop crying. Deciding to try giving her baby another bottle of milk to see if that would calm her down, Stacey placed the baby carrier on the ground next to a barn. Inside the stall was a horse named Red. However, Stacy wasn't worried about leaving her daughter next to the horse because he couldn't get to her. All the horse could do was poke his head around the side of the barn to get a closer look at the crying baby. But little did Stacy know that the horse would end up doing something incredible. As the young mom was warming the milk to the right temperature for her baby, she suddenly noticed that everything had gone very quiet. Ruby was no longer crying. In fact, Stacy heard her daughter start to laugh. Confused about what could have caused such a drastic change in her daughter's behavior so quickly, Stacy decided to go to where her daughter was to see what had happened. However, when she returned to the stables, she was shocked by what she saw. Red, with her head leaning just over the side of her stall door, was gently rocking Ruby in her safety seat. The horse was gently pushing its muzzle against the handle of the car seat, making it rock back and forth slightly. The baby, who was still sitting in the seat, giggled happily at the movement and smiled at the horse on top of her. Seeing that the trick worked on the giggling baby girl, Red continued to do it again, pushing Ruby's seat several times to keep it rocking. The baby gazed in wonder at the horse, smiling all the while. Seeing the unique interaction, Stacy quickly pulled out her phone and began recording it. She then posted the video online, where it quickly went viral. "I was almost in tears when I saw his reaction. I was a little overwhelmed," Stacy said in an interview. "When we walked in, Ruby was very upset. She was screaming and generally not having fun. But when she saw Red, she stopped crying and just stared at him. So we took her to sit near his barn. It was such a magical moment. I grew up around horses. I used to have 3, and I wanted to be the same for her." Stacy then went on to say that she was a little worried when Ruby wasn't enjoying it at first, but as soon as she sat with Red, it was like someone flipped a switch. She kept pointing and looking at him and loved it when he started moving the car seat. I don't know how Red had so much influence on her, but she slept well that night. Seeing that her daughter seemed to have inherited her love of equines, Stacy continued to watch as the baby and the horse interacted. She couldn't help but lose herself in the magical sight. After a few minutes of watching the tender scene, Stacy returned to Ruby and picked her up. The now smiling baby gently reached out to touch Red's snout before she and her mom returned to the house. From then on, Stacy made sure to take Ruby to the stables as much as possible so the little girl could see her new friend Red. Eventually, Stacy enrolled Ruby in riding lessons so the young girl could learn to ride horses and get even closer to them. Stacy and her partner want to save enough money to give their daughter a horse when she is old enough, as they know she loves the creatures as much as her mother. It truly is, as the saying goes, like father, like son. What an amazing story. Let us know what you thought in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing videos. See you next time.